the fierce battle for Jeff Sessions' old Senate seat in Alabama. Alabama voters head to the polls today to choose their pick to succeed Attorney General Jeff Sessions in the Senate. On the Republican side, it is a tight race between Senator Luther Strange, who was appointed to hold the seat temporarily, Freedom Caucus member Congressman Mo Brooks, the former state Supreme Court Judge Roy Moore. President Trump has thrown his support behind Senator Strange. Just yesterday, he tweeted, quote, "Luther Strange of the great state of Alabama has my endorsement. He is strong on border and wall and the military, tax cuts, and law enforcement." Congressman Brooks questioned the endorsement in the days leading up to the election.
If the president truly wants to drain the swamp, well, then don't go around endorsing the swamp's candidate. But ultimately, it's the president's decision, and personally, I believe that he's gotten bad advice from whoever is giving him advice on what is going on in the state of Alabama.
I'm new to the ways of Washington. I've only been here a few months. But I share the frustration of a lot of our citizens that we're not getting the fundamental issues addressed.
Constitution, I don't compromise on principle, and I will stand my ground.
Joining us this morning is Politico Playbook co-author, senior Washington correspondent Anna Palmer. Anna, good to see you. Thanks so much for weighing in here. We could see a runoff in today's election. What's your reaction to what's taking place so far?
I think actually there's an expectation that there will be a September runoff. The real question here is this is a test of what is going to happen with the Republican establishment. Not only have you had Donald Trump go after or support Senator Strange, but you have also had Mitch McConnell, the leader of the Senate, put in and say that they're going to spend as much as $10 million to get him elected to this seat. If he doesn't, perform well today, if it's a low numbers, it's going to be a really big problem for Republicans, not only in Alabama, but potentially for the 2018 election.
So you talk about the Republican establishment. Is President Trump now a part of that establishment? A few months ago, I would have thought that an endorsement from him would have been seen as an endorsement from an outsider, that let's bring in an outsider. Has that dynamic changed?
Listen, he certainly ran as an outsider, but he is the standard bearer of the party. He's going to have to own the election in terms of the 2018 and also his re-election. He went also supporting Senator Strange, which is somebody that a lot of the establishment has already backed. So it's not as if he was going to have a fissure with McConnell here and go potentially support Mo Brooks, who might be a more somebody who you would expect him to actually support more than Senator Strange.
Anna, question here. There's obviously a real difference in perception among voters of the approval of Congress and how they've been able to do or not do and follow through on a lot of the president's agenda. What is the feeling here as Alabamans go to the polls? Is this a race that they're excited about, that they feel like this has potential to change what's going on in Washington, or is it just kind of a hands-up approach and they're just going to support whichever candidate that the president supports?
This is a seat that has been held by Republicans, by Senator Sessions, for a very long time. Special elections always have low turnout, so I wouldn't expect this to be some gangbusters election today where all of a sudden the numbers are going to spike because Trump decided to endorse. I do think, this is pretty late in the game, right? Election day is today, so it's a little bit of a coin toss whether or not Trump's endorsement is going to actually have much of an impact here. You certainly saw Mo Brooks and his campaign manager pushing back on that, saying the die is cast here. People know who they're going to support.
Anna, following up on John's question, with President Trump endorsing Mr. Strange, doesn't that really sort of mix up the political calculus when it comes to how much is this a referendum on the establishment versus outsiders versus, local versus national? How much does this really tell you about where, say, the Republican Party is going? I mean, Mr. Strange, he also got the endorsement of the NRA, but it looks like his opponent is doing better with evangelicals. It just seems like a very complicated, mixed picture to me.
I think that's probably the right take. I mean, certainly when you look at Mo Brooks versus Luther Strange, their voting records aren't going to be that different. Mo Brooks is trying to run as an outsider, saying he wants to drain the swamp. He's been part of the Freedom Caucus movement in Congress. Luther Strange hasn't been in Congress. Obviously, he was appointed to fill Senator Sessions' seat, so he hasn't been there very long. He doesn't have a big voting record, but certainly Mitch McConnell sees him as an ally, and with trying to get his agenda passed, trying to get tax reform passed, for instance, this is somebody who Mitch McConnell wants in that seat, not Mo Brooks.
And we should be clear here that this race for the Republican nominee is the race for the seat, right? There's no Democrat who's going to come along and win this seat in Alabama.
it would be shocking if a Democrat goes and fills a seat. What the expectation is that there will be a runoff, that nobody will crest that 50% mark tonight in terms of the votes, and so that this will happen. There'll be a special election, force a special election in September. Well, then you'll have another election.
So are there wider implications then for this race, for the, basically showing us the divisions within the Republican Party in your view, Anna?
I do think it is going to be a referendum, certainly on Mitch McConnell. He came in very strong for Luther Strange. It is a test of, does the money matter? You have not only, Mitch McConnell is saying that they're going to spend $8 million in Alabama, of all places. This is not a high media, big market where they're going to be spending Los Angeles kind of money here. So this is a big testament towards, does it matter where Mitch McConnell decides to endorse or not?
Wow. That's a good question, particularly now while people are questioning whether or not the Senate is actually supporting the president in terms of his agenda.
Yeah, I think one of the things you have to look at here is this is going to be something about momentum, too, in terms of outside groups, in terms of where does the Republican Party see itself putting money in terms of the 2018 midterm election. Right now, obviously, there's not a lot happening in Washington. It's the August recess. The Republicans' agenda has stalled. It is unclear if they're going to have any successes here going into the end of the year. Right now, we're looking at a government shutdown fight. We're looking at a government funding fight, raising the debt ceiling. These are kind of just regular business things that have to get done. This isn't tax reform. This isn't health care. This isn't all the things that Republicans promised that they would get done.
Anna, one last follow-up question to Maria's point. You're saying that this could be a referendum on Mitch McConnell because of the money that he's pouring into his preferred candidate, Mr. Strange. But do you think that when it comes to the mainstream media, if Mr. Strange falls short, that the blaring headline is going to be President Trump's endorsed candidate, fell short?
I'm sure it's going to be covered widely, although I do think there has been an expectation game that's been set here. No one is expecting Luther Strange to win tonight outright. He's come in kind of consistently second in the polls with Mo Brooks, just a few points behind, so within the margin of error. So I think there has been some moderation in terms of that. And I also think, look, President Trump only endorsed yesterday, so it's not as if he has a ton of skin in the game in this race.
Yeah, that's a good point, too, Anna. Thanks very much for weighing in this morning, Anna.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Anna Palmer there.